Profound political disunity. This was a key feature of the Roman Empire in its final slide to collapse. The shared values and consensus which had held the empire's core together dissolved, leaving petty fiefdoms to war among themselves for what power and swag remained. Today we have several types of political disunity. Superficially, the two political theater wings of the Demo-Publicans stage a bitter partisan war over whose vision of the U.S. holds an increasingly enfeebled political power. But this is all theater and artifice. Neither wing has any vision or values of substance. Each slavishly serves their masters, the corporate cartels and financial oligarchy, while feeding their vast constituencies in the savior state with borrowed treasure to maintain the power. However, the real disunity is between a doomed status quo and those willing to deal with reality. Right now, those willing to deal with reality are few, but they have the distinct advantage of reality on their side, while the status quo has only propaganda, artifice, phony political theater, and empty promises. The disunity stems from the public's innate desire to hold on to the empty promises and cling to hope offered by the status quo that these grandiose, impossible promises will be met, despite the abundant factual evidence to the contrary. Every attempt to lead the public towards the realization that the present is unsustainable is crushed by a frantic assault by the cartels and players who will lose power and profits when the status quo crumbles. Promises always sound better than reality until a crisis punctures the promises. But the anger generated by this deflation of too good to be true promises threatens both rationality and stability. And what of the leadership? The weakness of what passes for leadership today is not just a matter of bad luck, but of the corruption of politics to the point that it only attracts sycophants, moral midgets, and sociopaths. It's easy to blame those attracted to the game for this, but the real cause is the American people, who reject honesty in favor of artifice and promises. The American public is childlike, self-centered, myopic, ill-informed, and ultimately uncaring about anything but getting what's theirs. Thus, anyone who promises that their share of the swag will remain untouched wins, and anyone who suggests the swag is unsustainable is rejected. To the degree a nation gets the leadership it demands, then the U.S. is in trouble. We are now a nation of spoiled teens who get to elect their parents. No surprise, the ones who never enforce any penalties, those that have learned never to challenge their own bosses, the kleptocrats, and who dole out the most allowances, win every time. Thus we get leaders who refuse to challenge the financial power elites and cartels because the status quo would devote all of their wealth and influence to defeating such a challenger. And we get leaders who refuse to be honest with the American people because that honesty is rejected as unwelcome. A real leader persuades the public to grow up rather than pander to their primal desires. But such a leader would only have one term of office, let alone be elected at all. A funny thing happens when a nation allows itself to be ruled by kleptocrats. Such rule is intrinsically destabilizing, as there is no longer any center to bind the nation together. The public sees the value system at the top as I, me, and mine. Greed fed by complicity and corruption, and they follow suit by pursuing whatever petty frauds and corruptions are within reach. Tax avoidance, cheating on entrance exams, gaming disability, lying on mortgage and job applications, and so on. Meanwhile, the diverting of national income into a few power centers is also destabilizing. Central planning and market manipulation, as in the formation of bubbles, make things intrinsically unstable, as price can no longer be discovered by unfettered markets. As a result, imbalances grow until some seemingly tiny incident or disruption triggers a cascading collapse. The power elites can't bear to part with any of their power or wealth, so their resistance guarantees systemic collapse. The political leadership cannot challenge the power elite's grip on the nation's throat because the entire status quo has been co-opted or sold out and is now wedded to the oligarchy as their guarantor of financial security. What this leads to is a status quo committed to a sinking ship. The very imbalances created by a financial elite and the enabling central planning doom the system. But since everyone within the status quo depends on it for their own slice of wealth and power, then no one dares speak up in favor of reality. Complicity is the order of the day, but complicity can't stop the ship from sinking. Although it is unpopular to say so, some aspects of our morality in the U.S. have been corrupted as well by a societal desire for wealth and a focus on acquiring it above all things, and by a desire for political power masquerading as morality. Complicity and dependence erode the soul. Political and financial fixes alone can't fix the rot. In a fundamentally corrupt, complicit society, rules and laws are routinely evaded, bypassed, undermined, or simply ignored. Making more rules fixes nothing if the rules are merely for show or only for the bottom 99% of us. The status quo and the public both refuse to deal with the reality and instead cling to the Titanic, demanding magical solutions that will keep the doomed ship from sinking. There is no such magic, of course, and so the ship will go down, and disorder will reign. It might take the shape of a financial crisis, such as devaluation or hyperinflation, or it might take a political crisis, such as a quiet coup by elites or an outbreak of resistance to the heavy-handed central state. At the outer boundaries of such disorder, then the nation could split apart or into permutations of civil war. The salient feature of instability is its unpredictability. The longer the nation waits to deal with unwelcome realities, the greater the eventual destabilization. What happens as a result of that inevitable destabilization will ultimately be up to us.